Welcome on behalf of ELL, the English Language and Literature Department, and the Seminar Committee, as well as the Singapore Association of Applied Linguistics, or SAL. It's my great pleasure to welcome Professor Jim Martin here today. The best thing about introducing someone like Jim is that there are always glowing biographies that you can find anywhere that you can read. So I didn't have to do too much research. In fact, I was surprised to realise that you even have your own Wikipedia site now. So I'll read a little bit from Wikipedia. Jim Martin was born in Canada in 1950. It's in Wikipedia, so you know, it must be true. He studied linguistics with Michael Gregory at York University, with H.A. Gleason at the University of Toronto, and with Michael Halliday and Rakaya Hassan at the University of Essex. In 1977, Halliday invited him to the newly founded Linguistics Department of the University of Sydney, where he has been based ever since. Professor Martin was elected Fellow of the Australian Academy of Humanities in 1998 and awarded a Centenary Medal for his services to linguistics and philology in 2003. His research interests include systemic functional linguistics, systemic functional grammar, discourse semantics, register, genre, multimodality, and critical discourse analysis, focusing on English and Tagalog, with special reference to transdisciplinary fields of educational linguistics, forensic linguistics, and social semiotics. His books include a major description of discourse semantics English text, an outline of appraisal theory with Peter White titled The Language of Evaluation, and with David Rose, a guide to discourse analysis titled Working with Discourse, a guide to genre theory titled Genre Relations, Mapping Culture, an introduction to genre-based literacy pedagogy of the Sydney School titled Learning to Write, Reading to Learn. The first of 2 of 8 volumes of his collected papers were published in 2010, and so on and so on and so forth. Jim in fact sent me his biography, his list of publications, which for environmental reasons I did not print out. I'm not joking, it was 30 pages, and I went, I'll keep that as an e-copy. His credentials as a scholar and a researcher stand for themselves. But I just wanted to give you, before we begin today, a little bit of insight into what it's like to actually be taught by Jim. What he's actually like as a mentor and as a supervisor.
Someone who knows too much.
No, I'm friendly. These are all positive attributes. The first thing I want to say is that Jim is extremely open-minded, intellectually open-minded, and you can see this by the fields that he's worked in and the areas he has interest in. But you could also see that too in terms of the kind of research students he has and the kind of topics that those research students were engaged in, and that he allowed them to be engaged in and encouraged them to be engaged in. For instance, while I was his PhD student circa, 2007 to 2010, and I won't get them all here, so apologies, but just to give you a sense of this open-mindedness, he had students working on image-text relations in children's picture books, image-text relations in broadsheet newspapers, as well as websites, humour in Canadian casual conversation, nationalism in Japanese history textbooks. He had students describing the grammars and the functional grammars of Persian as well as Spanish, and he even had some crazy white boy who thought it would be a good idea to analyse rap music. All to give you a sense of how open he is in terms of engaging. Okay. The second thing I want to say is that Jim is unbelievably generous with his time. And having worked only now for just over a year and a half as a full-time academic, I still can't believe how you were managing 7, 8, 9 PhD students and at the same time doing what you're managing to do. We would meet with Jim once a fortnight for at least an hour, and that was regular. We would also meet once a week as a research group. And Jim was always there with those meetings as well. And we'd meet, in addition to that, we would meet once a week as a systemic community as well, which Jim was a big part of as well. Very generous with his time. The third thing I want to say is that Jim is intellectually ambitious, and he gets his students to be the same. He's always pushing you. He doesn't talk to you like a research student, he talks to you like a contemporary. I think that's really important when you're at that level to be treated like that. Now, he pushes you hard, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. I haven't told you this, and I'm not sure you know about this, but it's common knowledge among research students who've worked with Jim, and you share this information down the generations, that when you get to about your second, your third year or so, you have to avoid visiting him. You actually have to stop meeting with him, because he won't stop teaching, he won't stop encouraging you, he won't stop you doing things. And that in fact means avoiding him, and you don't know this, but avoiding him at social gatherings and parties as well. And there was many a time where I wanted to hide away from Jim, not because he would scold me, but because he would try and teach me and keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. The last thing I want to say is that Jim is really inspiring. You always walked away from any kind of meeting with Jim feeling like you could do anything, feeling like everything was opened up to you and the potential was there. And inspirational, inspired is one of the best ways I can put it, to be quite honest. And in fact, as fate would have it, it's only a short little email I got recently, and I'll finish on this, from a colleague who was updating me, who I worked with in Sydney. And she was updating me with regards to where she's at and where she's studying, and she's doing wonderful things. And it just so happened I was thinking about what I would say about Jim, and she wrote the following things, and this is not uncommon. She was reporting on where she was at, etc., but she then mentioned this. She says, I met up with Jim in Leichhardt yesterday at a cafe in Norton Street. Leichhardt is a suburb in New South Wales, Sydney. She says, I've been working on iconisation as well as other things like semantic gravity and all these things she was telling me about. And what she says at the end of it is, it's always inspiring to see him. He gives me heaps of ideas, keeps me motivated. And then she says, he's coming to visit you soon, isn't he? He is. Here he is. And I hope you find him equally as inspiring as we did as research students. Jim Martin.